It is Saturday, September the 20th. I'm Chris, and this is The Future of Photography.
The Future of Photography.
Hello, gentlemen. Jeremiah,
Hello.
Adrian, woohoo. Everyone's
Hello.
back.
Oh,
Yes, welcome back,
Speak.
travelling friend.
thank you. It's good to be back, sort
we
of.
dearly missed you. We dearly
No,
missed you.
I very much would like to go back today. It was an extraordinary, absolutely mind-blowing
What exactly,
traverse.
where were you? Tell us a bit more. I don't think we ever talked about this in any detail here on the show. Tell us as much as you like to tell us.
Well, I could tell you the process here was I flew to Paris, then from Paris spent a few days in Paris, but then went up to Greenland and to the west coast of Greenland and traversed a lot of Greenland up in and through into the coast. Where I boarded a ship, an expedition ship, very not huge, very quite small, only about 70 odd passengers, and a lot of expedition experts, whether it's geologists or animal experts, ice navigators, et cetera, historians. And then from there, we went and crossed into and through the Northwest Passage.
Wow. What does that exactly mean for those who are not familiar with that term?
Well, it's best, the Franklin expedition, I think it was 1847 or something like that, around there. These are the famous explorers who are searching for the famous overworld route to China. And most of them got caught in the ice, spent years there. There are many expeditions. Some came after to try and find them. The most famous boats are the Erebus and the Terror, which there have been shows and certainly amazing series called The Terror, which showed the struggles and opportunities and stunning wilderness and mythology of the Inuit and further north. So this was a very intense navigation through passages. Of course, we're in the fall, so it's the ice certainly is there, but in the winter, you would need a very hardy vessel, and mainly because of the narrowness of the fjords, they're very, very difficult to traverse. So that's why they got stuck in the ice. Also, without charts, you'll come to a fjord and it will be quite big. You'll think you can navigate all the way through it, and then you'll end up at the end of it. So you'll have to go all the way back, and the tides may recede, and you may get stuck. Then they get back, and they're faced a wall. They can go left or right, port or starboard, and they chose one way, and it turns into a maze. And so navigating through this without charts was extremely dangerous, and so many sailors perished there. And I did visit their cairns, their graves, to the site where many of the boats were frozen, and was an extremely powerful and amazing area. As you know, I've done my share of traveling, but I'd have to say that the Arctic light is the most stunning light, and that includes Antarctica as well. It is unlike anything that I have seen, experienced, and I'm sure it is dazzling most times of year. It was just a very specific, soft. There's not often days of hard sunlight, though they do occur. But the kind of haziness or softness of the light, and the how low it is on the horizon, the reflections of the mountains, and of course the crispness of the air, which is unfiltered and absolutely beautiful, just in every single way you can imagine in terms of its energy, was very provocative and inspiring every day. That would be a good example of, you just wake up to this constantly. There was never a moment that you just didn't go, "Oh my god."
Yeah, we're looking at a few pictures here, and I mean, it's just the starkness of the landscape, and yeah, the light. I've been to Greenland. I've seen the light. I've
Yeah,
been to Svalbard, and
yeah.
it's just it must have to do with whatever particles are in the air, whatever's going on there.
Certainly so. Greenland was, there's a really beautiful, image floating through a navigation of a fjord that is, I think, Baffin Island, which was the height of beauty. If I had to choose one particular, island in the passage, it would be Baffin Island. It was quite a surprise, though. I would say that I was most intrigued, amazed, and surprised by overall was Greenland. I want to go back there now. I certainly want to go back to the West Coast. We did the East Coast, and I want to go back to the East Coast now, uh, more in the ice, off Svalbard, and certainly Reykjavik, and do that little passage there because I think that would be extraordinary. But taking pictures in these, really, they look very placid and beautiful, but I assure you, it's extremely cold.
Yeah.
If I was picking, that was one of my first questions I was getting ready to ask, was actually because it does look very placid. A lot of these pictures, it feels that it's a very still environment. Some of them have got a very, very sharp reflection in the water, even, not even a ripple in the water.
Yes. And this is the Arctic Sea, remember? So these are inland fjords that become very calm, right?
Yeah, and that. So, but it was and I was thinking this doesn't feel right, because I would have expected, if you'd said to me, right, okay, it's this time of year, it's September in the Arctic, so it's not summer anymore. And I would have expected it to be a little bit harsher than this, but a lot of your images come back with very still, very calming. It's very relaxing to look at these pictures, right?
These are also the most calming pictures, because I shot pictures that are with quite rough sea up there, and you have both, and these are the ones that are just so much more beautiful.
Yeah, this is Sissamut in Greenland. This is just a walk I had as I was kind of moving towards I think we're Kangamusik, where we were driving in and found the airstrip to take us, again, Sissamut, beautiful. The only visited, the two most northern populated communities. There's not that many, and the way this particular boat will bring fresh fruit and vegetables to these communities and have an interaction with them. They're very eco-friendly and all of that. And so it was very interesting to actually make contact both on the Canadian side and on the Greenland side with these deep north communities. Overall, and this is just a smattering. I have lots of landscapes.
How many pictures did you take? How often did you press your shutter button?
Incalculable.
And how many?
I'll get into the process in a moment.
But how many of those pictures feature this type of symmetry, mirror symmetry, top and bottom?
A lot, because that's my aesthetic generally, and also first of all, I do have, pursuant to Adrian's comment, a lot of images on ice. In other words, ice on ice. I do have that, and beautiful images of quite amazing icebergs, just as a complement to my Antarctic icebergs. So I was going to do a mirror because they're very different. The ice is very different. The story is very different. The oxygen levels and all the fruits. So I posted some of these from a very northern area in Greenland, but I'll be putting my deep north pictures up pretty soon. Obviously, I just got back, so these are they're not edited. They're literally what I saw, and I'll explain the process too. But I did take this is more into the Arctic, what you would see, moving through the Northwest Passage. This would be I don't want to say common because it's anything but common, but
and it's a lot of this, I'm sure, and you still don't get fed up with it, right?
never, because the light changes, the actual topography changes. You know, these kinds of images are constant, but sometimes you'll see a series of mountains. One is kind of orange and one is black, and you'll realize, oh, those are iron in the mountains that have effectively rusted. I'm oversimplifying it, but that kind of juxtaposition of color, form, light, composition was inspiring constantly, and it was nice for me as as you guys know, I've been working with AI certainly for the last several years, and have drifted off my photographic roots, and this really reconstituted my abject love for taking pictures, capturing pictures. There's a picture like this would be like, if I made this picture in a day, I'd go, wow, my day is done. You know what I mean? I love this. It just captures the awe and breathtaking beauty that you really can't find anywhere else. It's not like anything that I had seen. Also, the fact that there are no people. It is very
Very
Bliss,
noticeable,
bliss.
that, yes.
By the way, whoever's listening to this right now, if you want to see pictures, go to our photo store. We have a public album where these pictures can be seen. You'll find the link in the show notes. Just FYI.
So again, the sheer majesty of all of these pictures was the kind of stimulus to try and capture an overall. Now, I also have to say that we did a tremendous amount of hiking and wet landings, and this will inform when I start talking about the gear, because that's going to be a part of this
So
conversation.
wet landing means you go on a Zodiac.
Zodiac, but there's no beachhead. I mean,
But there's nothing. You have to get on rocks
You
and
have to-
kind of stumble your way onto land.
you're in the water when you get off, so you have
Yes.
to have
That sounds
high
cold.
boots.
So you're stomping
it's
around
cold.
this cold
There's,
place with
there's
cold,
no
cold wet feet.
infrastructure whatsoever.
None, and you determine, or one determines this is an image. If you're waking up in the morning, this is through my cabin window. There's a tiny balcony there, which I'd often just go out in t-shirts and underwear because I didn't want to miss the moment and capture it. And like, you just open your eyes and this is what you see. It's amazing, that kind of light in real life. So the process of kind of getting on land, which was a daily occurrence, was challenging. You had to really walk with a walking stick because, for several reasons. One, you're climbing often quite steep mountains. You're walking on completely uneven ground with big and small rocks, mulch, all kinds of terrains, tundra. The tundra is moving off from frost to melt, but uneven. So you need the stick to determine, is this ice solid enough for my step, or am I going to go through? Also for balance. And every step is a challenge. You can't be walking looking straight ahead. You have to. So there is a beautiful meditation that happens in terms of your pace and how you just completely become really one with the actual earth.
And at the same time, you're keeping your eyes peeled for polar bears, right?
constantly. Polar bears, as you know, they
Nice,
are.
cuddly little
Oh yeah,
white
they are
things, right?
cute, but they are one of the only alpha predators that actually really like the taste of human flesh. So, and they can smell up to, a kilometer and a half, a mile. So they're very, very sensitive. And the overall international agreements there is because I saw a lot of polar bears. Let me just say, I saw at least between 25 and 30 polar bears, a lot of polar bears. And I managed to get within 50 feet of a polar bear, probably from a
Oh, wow.
zodiac.
Okay.
It was a mother and a cub they were feeding, or she was teaching them things. But if it starts to go into the water, you have to get out of that area very quickly. Also, if you're on land, we had guides that would go in advance and post on promontories to watch for polar bears because they're very fast. They know you're coming, and a few times we had to abandon abandon land, as it were, because of them. But they are marvelous, amazing creatures. We learned a lot about them because there were some experts on board who lectured about them and how their fur works and how they modulate their temperatures. And they are absolutely fascinating and beautiful creatures. I couldn't get enough. I saw a lot of whales of different descriptions. Saw a narwhal.
Oh, did you?
Very rare sighting. My
Ah.
granddaughter was extremely impressed. Uh, did see a narwhal, and on one of my hikes, a little Arctic fox ran right in front of me, stopped, gave me a side eye, carrying a fish. I'm not a predator to him; they had no fear of me, and just wandered off. Saw major footprints of. Didn't see one, but I saw the footprints of Arctic wolves. Certainly big bear prints, which I posted on Instagram, massive paw prints in the snow. You think, wow, how old are these? But so a lot of hiking, very physical, in all manner of areas. Certainly, Greenland is a little easier to, as you probably know, to manage and walk and hike. There is some level of infrastructure there, but the landscape, the juxtaposition of the wetland and the ice together, and some of the oldest rocks in the world are in Greenland. They're 1.5 billion years old, and just the thought of that is quite amazing. I mean, compressed over, you know, millennium, that's nothing. 1.5 billion, that's some serious time. So that's the kind of overall of the trip. Um,
So gear. Let's talk gear. Why not?
Gear. It was a very. I had to think very, very carefully about what gear I took. The last polar trip that I did, which was in the south, into Antarctica, I brought a lot of gear, including a tripod. I brought film cameras, 6x9s.
Out of fear to miss something, or
No, I just wanted, I thought, and in a way, I'm glad I did. I did very formal, beautiful on film images of icebergs, which, I'll eventually print large, etc. I didn't want to miss the opportunity of being able to select the right camera for the right moment. And it wasn't that bad because the Antarctic is not as diverse visually as the Arctic is. So once I got into the groove, it was easy. But I wanted to travel quite light. I knew there would be a lot of in and out of zodiacs, walking and whatnot. You're extremely bundled up because of the gear, so you're fully Martianed up, right? Um, and gloves, and I'll talk about hands in particular because that's the weak point of this whole agenda of photography. And because we're the future of photography, I'll talk about what I would like to see in the next iteration of camera and tech. But so thinking that through, I did bring an Instax 360 because I thought, oh, this is going to be so cool to like take 360s and look at it on my Vision Pro. I did not take one picture of it. It just felt a little too selfie. And why bother doing that when there was so much grace in a beautiful framed image. So and that's not a big camera, so it didn't take up a lot of room. Binoculars, of course, because you want to be able to spot creatures as they occur. However, I am not, nor will I be, a wildlife photographer. I am not. It's not that I don't have interest in all of them and seeing them and experiencing them. And I did take some photos of a polar bear. I have a little Canon monocular that I can use. It's not great quality, but you can get pretty good for what it is. But I think the next piece of gear for a trip like that will be a good set of binoculars that can take photographs, and there are some. So I just had a small binocular with me. Also, knowing that the Zodiac in and out, you have to be able to protect your gear.
It's got to be slightly splash proof.
Exactly, and not slightly, because when you're on the open ocean in the Arctic on a Zodiac, and if you've ever spent time on a Zodiac, the water comes into the Zodiac and you get rid of it by accelerating. So it's a wet experience, it's a cold experience, it's a windy experience, it's a rocky experience. So there is a lot of splash and whatnot. Of course, I had my iPhone, and we'll talk about how to manage that. And I finally decided, no, I'm going to use one camera, my go-to camera, which was my Leica Q3, which is pretty sealed. I used a filter on it, which was both what's his name? I forget his name, but it's a slight, it's a polarizer, an ND, and it has also a slight softening.
Bit of ProMist kind of
yeah,
thing?
yes.
Okay.
All-in-one filter. It's not a cheap filter, but boy, was that the right choice. So it just takes somewhat of the edge of the Leica sharpness, but without sacrificing it, if you know what I mean. The Polo was very, very useful because you could do that. The ND I didn't really bother with. There was plenty of light. And I don't really bother with ISO anymore because I'm not shooting bokeh or anything like that in that condition. But it was a good protection, and so I had one filter always on, a rubber lens cap, not the one that comes with the Leica Q3, who parenthetically, people said the Leica is so quiet except for the constant sound of the lens cap hitting the ground because it just gets looser and looser and looser. And it's metal, it looks great, but bonk. So I left that home. I took an extra battery, but the batteries lasted all day. I never really had to. I never really got scared that I was going to run out of charge. And ditto on the capture chip.
That's pretty impressive in that temperature for the battery to last all
I thought
day.
so.
It's that cold.
Yeah. I mean, I was expecting that I would have to change batteries midstream, but I never had to, and I was using it constantly. Again, like I said, I didn't. So I had that one camera, and it's a camera I've banged around. The build quality is so extraordinary. I never worry about it, and it's weather sealed, so it can withstand quite a lot of water. Though when we were in the Zodiac, I just had a little kind of plastic bag that I would put over it. You know what I mean? If we were in, why ask for trouble? And it's seawater, so you don't want the salt getting in there either. The key for those kinds of things is you've got to keep the camera attached to yourself. I can only imagine the amount of gear that is at the bottom of these places, because especially people were using their iPhones. Now, I'll talk about the iPhones in a moment, but
I have a question about the Leica, actually.
You will develop a vice grip for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question about the Leica, right?
Yeah.
So because there'll be people listening, they're thinking, okay, that is quite a constraining choice because it is a fixed lens camera, fixed at 28mm, so not a lot of reach, but obviously good for broader stuff. But did you use the built-in zoom modes and things like that much?
I constantly use that. I constantly change. I mean, it'll go up to 90. Remember, it's 60 plus megapixels. There's plenty of information.
So it just crops basically.
Yeah, it's cropping. And I'm shooting in DNG and JPEG. So I see my images in JPEG, which are what's posted. But when I go through it and want to make fine tunes, I'll pull the DNG and start to rebalance. So the quality is such that I don't really worry about that anymore, about noise and blowing up now with the new post like Topaz and whatnot, gigapixels. You could eliminate a lot of the pixelation noise and get it pretty close, unless you're making a poster, that is huge. I'm finding that is, there were times that I thought, oh, maybe I wanted the Q345, whatever it was, the one that had the larger ones, but the longer lenses. But at the end of the day, I'm not really using it for portraits. The wide angle really was a really good go-to. 28 or 35 was really the perfect lens, I felt, for a lot of the images, especially when you're on the hikes. I mean, you're really the aspect of getting low, getting down, and seeing a lot to put you in the frame is something that I appreciated. So is never a constraint.
Also, limiting yourself to a focal length is just such a creative boost, because you will have to look at the world with different eyes anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Like there are people, on me that had like zooms that are, being frame, like so huge, right? And they were always like, right? Like, and they're carrying these zooms around, and it's like managing, walking sticks and zooms and all of that. It just felt. I think
So
they were
did you have
gear-oriented.
the camera attached to your shoulder straps then on a day sack or something like that? Is that how you managed it?
They were around my neck. Of course, my neck had, a hood, a very small expedition. What do you call it? Life preserver.
Yeah,
life
boys.
jacket,
Yeah.
And under that, gear. Of course, there's, I have pockets. So I was attached to the camera and my iPhone. I also was attached to my iPhone. Now, my iPhone, before I get into that, I was using this.
You're like a
the grip,
whatever it is. Yes.
Yeah, which was arguably, if I had any doubt about my lunacy in buying it, which I bought it kind of just like, oh, I'm going to buy this. It could have been like it could have been a boat anchor for sure.
When you bought that, it's the only thing that in the years that I've known you've ever been slightly apologetic about buying. Most of the time you just enjoy the new purchases. That one you were like, I'm really not sure about this one.
It's very true.
Turned into one of the best things that I ever bought. Like
It's good to know.
It was so useful because it allowed me to control the cameras on the iPhone by thumb.
With the gloves.
So, but I'll get into that in a moment. So charging, ISO, not a big deal. Wildlife shooting, wasn't that interested. Did take some pictures of whales breaching, but those pictures always seemed to me I could, if I really wanted to capture them, I just go online and find a National Geographic photographer like Sue Flood or somebody who's done way better pictures, because they're all waiting for, there's amazing wildlife photographers in this world who have the patience and, get that expression of the animal. That's not me. I'm into the light and the form try to capture.
I found that cruising in the north, not quite in the Arctic, but a couple of years ago when we were cruising up the coast of Alaska, I found that actually the joy of taking a photograph of a whale was not the Nat Geo type thing. It was the joy of having captured a moment that I personally witnessed, and so the quality of the photo or the artisticness or the composition, I was just happy if I managed to get the whale above the water, right?
Well, I get that for your kids, but like, what am I going to show a bad shot of? Like the narwhals are so hard to see. I could barely get my camera up and it was gone, but I did see it and I saw the snout. And I mean, just the experience of seeing that. Same thing with the bears. I took, I probably captured maybe 6 or 8 of them, but they were personal and they're good, and I sent them to my pals. I put a few up on Insta, but they're not what I would consider great photos. There's a great subject and it's quite beautiful, but the experience of actually seeing them in real life and being present for that, just standing, you know what I mean, or sitting at the Zodiac off the shore and watching a polar bear, tear up a seal and eat it and fight the birds away and swat like that's an astonishing, for me, it was an astonishing experience of just being on Earth, especially since, as you guys know, I've had a difficult year. So it's really being present like that was very healthy and very, very satisfying. Um, but in terms of photography, it was always about the light. So the Leica, which I tended to use in automatic mode for a lot of reasons, because the weak point of shooting in the Arctic are your hands. This is like your hands off the gloves. You could do it for maybe a minute. They get really cold really fast, and you don't want to get frostbite. And using your fingers to start to fiddle is something that is and can be quite painful. So you want to keep your gloves on. Sadly, the little tiny gloves, well, they don't really help because unless you have the metal thing on the fingertips, that's good for your electronics, but the wind will go through those in a second. You need some serious gloves. I brought, Arctic mittens. I didn't have to use those, but gloves with fingers good. But at the end of the day, it was my fingers that were always cold. I mean, the extremities. Feet, if I just modulated the socks right and the boots, remember you're in water as well and mulch, so you're going to get cold. But that wasn't really a problem because you're also hiking. So there's blood in there and it's circulating. So that wasn't horrible. But hands are a problem. And especially if you're dealing with too much gear. So this is where reducing the amount of gear, reducing the thinking process of adjusting, selecting maybe the range of ISO, which I did, from low to, medium, by 32 at the top and maybe, 50 at the bottom. And then everything else was a balance, especially since I wasn't looking for bokeh. I was just looking to capture. And I captured in JPEG and DNG. And so it was very quick. If I saw something, I could capture it. And that proved to be the best experience, contrary to my experience in Antarctica, where I was fiddling and the exact right, taking measurements and all of that. And also it's a little tricky.
Which also can be lots of fun.
No. It was fun, and I was very satisfied with it.
Yeah.
But I knew I didn't want to do this because generally in Antarctica, you're on a plane. It's flat. You could walk without as long as you watch the crevices, you're pretty good. And also the reflection of the snow in the sky, that needed a little fine tuning because that's a bit tricky. A lot of glare, a lot of halation possible. And so it's a different technical realm. There's all manner of contrast. So the only thing you want to do is to be able at a thumb is open up your shadows or close down your highlights. That's about it. If your gamut is good, you can get a capture because sometimes you're into a black foreground and a very bright background, and you want that contrast. So just adjusting that quickly is important. I didn't take a lot of pictures from the Zodiac, obviously, some of icebergs when we were moving around, though I think the next time I go, I do want to bring another piece of kit, and that is a scanner. So I can scan the icebergs, which are marvelous. Anyway, that would be another episode. In terms of the iPhone, it turned out I used the iPhone a lot. Because it was, and I had both of them. And sometimes I would do a lot of initial capturing with my Leica, and then I'd go like, well, I got it. I got the format. And, the landscape is pretty well stabilized, more or less. The forms are changing, but the light is the same. So I'd put it away. I'd pull out my iPhone attached to this rig and attached to my body. So I had both straps on it. Even then I had to be very careful because it is a magnet. It is strong, but it is easily, especially with all that gear and moving around, easy to knock off. And remember, you're also carrying a stick. So, there's tactile balancing that goes along
plenty
with
of opportunity for
disaster. Yes, plenty. So you have to be careful. But in using this, I was able, once you set up you can attach it and connect it just with one touch of the button. Once that was done, I moved between the Leica camera app, which is, I find it's good because it gives me the kind of looks that I'm used to. And I use the X-Pan, which is the Hasselblad X-Pan, which I like because it's an instant panorama, which often that's what I want. It has the 3 steps of zoom. And as an old X-Pan user with a beautiful 90 millimeter lens, I had the 45 and the 90. RIP X-Pan, but I miss that camera. That's a camera I probably would have taken with me instead of the Leica had it survived. It did not. But
I was just thinking a White Lux or something, but that is not really that good on a moving ship, right?
No, and
because it pans, and depending on your shutter speed, it's not super fast, right?
It could be. You could get it
a wavy horizons.
Yeah, that would be good. The X-Pan proved to be really, really good. It's the images are somewhat processed, though you can with your finger, you can change the processing to neutral.
Yeah, there are some options in the app, aren't there? So that
there are, and they're easy and to manage. But again, when I was looking at people holding their phones and trying to do that and just inches away from dropping it into the Arctic Sea, like, oh God, I mean, it's so easy to do that. I mean, really easy. And just fiddling with your camera with gloves, if you don't have the controller, that's a lot of time, pain, energy. People do it, but it's not ideal. What I'd like to see, and maybe this is coming, is the audio controller like the Instax have, where I can have an earbud in and just say shoot, and it will connect with the camera and shoot immediately. I'd like to see that. I think we're close to it, but I haven't yet seen it.
Can you imagine a handful of photographers taking pictures of something? Everyone goes, shoot, shoot, shoot.
Well, maybe that's like if you're watching television and an ad comes on that says something about your Alexa.
Yep.
I think so.
And then
So
your
I
Alexa
would go
goes,
with the
yes.
watch. I would go with the watch, right? Because I don't know if you guys speak into your watches much.
I do.
But yeah, I do. If I'm out and about and I have an idea to capture, I have a button that uses the app drafts, and I can just speak a note, and the dictation is really good.
I've set it up to just shout into the watch, and it does things without a code word or anything. It just does it.
Okay, interesting. So, but what I find with the watch is that you can sub-vocalize. You can literally just whisper into it very, very quietly indeed, and it will do dictation like pretty perfectly, even if you're just whispering into the watch.
I would say
have to shout it.
yes, under normal, relatively good conditions. But remember, you have to get to your watch.
Yeah,
When
No,
you're
it's
trying
under
to-
4 layers of things. Of course it is. Yeah.
And your gloves come up to here, and so I don't think it's practical in the polar regions. Personally,
No, you're probably right, because you'd have to strap it on the outside, but then it'd be perpetually locked because it needs to be able to ping your wrists, doesn't it?
Exactly.
To work and
I mean,
stuff. Fair point.
We are on the verge of the age of smart glasses. We'll just have the things on our noses,
No. I paid a lot of money to not have to wear glasses. I do not want to buy glasses ever.
But they'll be
ever
smart.
Again.
They won't be dumb and just make
you'll
you
just
see
do
better.
something with
They'll
your
do
nose,
things,
like this. You'll go like this, and then I'll take a picture, right?
Well, like a rabbit.
But I think if there was a weak link, it definitely was the hands cold screen disambiguity, or whatever that word would be. It's just not.
You don't have the same
focused.
haptic kind of sense. Yeah. Mhm.
No, and so there is that, and even setting up your camera to take pictures with the side buttons with big gloves, you can't really feel them. They're very subtle, and so again, for the most part, I can control the ISO, the looks, but if I wanted to change from Leica to X-Pan and back and forth, that's what I was doing. I had to remove my gloves. I had to do that, and then I could put them back on. And luckily, this works with all the photography apps. In other words, it's not just with the Leica app. And I think there are many of these that are now out that are much less expensive. That I've started to see now that I bought mine, right? I see the half-price versions of them everywhere. But if there was one weakness, it does not charge the phone, but the battery lasts days and days and days and days. So there's the positive.
Yeah, I have, and I can't. Is it called Shift Cam or something? I can't remember what it's called. I have one of those magnetic ones, and it can either charge the phone or it can operate as a shutter button and what have you. But it can't do both at the same time for some reason, which is which you'd probably want it to do, but in more extreme circumstances. But
anyway, I've made up for the fact that I've been away for 3 weeks by monopolizing this entire show. But there you have it.
That's great. Show. It's all good.
Thanks for sharing. This is amazing. Okay, so Northwest Passage. Okay, I'll put this on my bucket list now.
Oh, you must. I mean, it would be a great photo expedition. Maybe we'll figure something out.
Certainly. All right. So I guess we'll drift into our picks of the week, which let me just rearrange the screen here and try to figure out why it's not sharing. How about that? And now put it on the other side. Everything's different today. Here we go, as usual. Okay, so I brought us a camera. Speaking of gear, right? One that you would have had perfect use up in the Northwest Passage. It's a thing that came out of Kickstarter, and it's a high-speed camera. Shoots 1,000 frames per second at 4.6K resolution. It's called the Pixboom Spark. I thought it was a joke when I saw this first. So what they've done is they have, I think it shoots 1,000 frames per second at 4K and 1,800 at 2K. It has very good image quality, apparently. They have a lot of tech in there. Speaking of like raw video to PCIe SSDs. They have SDI connection. They have a pre-buffer in there for 2,000 frames, just in case you want to hit the button after something happened. They have an ENPL mount. You can change it yourself, so you can have professional lenses on it. And the thing is comparably cheap for what it can do. 7,500 Kickstarter price, and final retail price about $13,000. So
that's pretty amazing considering a Phantom camera costs.
I mean, some of the Phantoms go up to 100,000 and more frames per second, but at really reduced image quality and resolution. This one, 1,000 frames, which is fairly usable for a lot of applications at 4K. That's kind of crazy. So that was what I stumbled across recently, and I was quite intrigued.
That's quite astonishing, actually, isn't it? Really,
it is.
I wonder what it'd be used for. I mean, lots of creative opportunities.
It depends. If you're a YouTuber who does science experiments, that's certainly amazing to have to slow
if you need the actual
something
thing. Because
down.
I was thinking to myself, one of the main competitions for a camera like that would actually be software rather than hardware, right? Because there's a lot of software now that can do the interpolation between frames to give you a smooth image. But when you're actually trying to record something that's factually happened, like a scientific use case, that's when you need it, isn't it?
Exactly. I think we have now AI-based temporal recalculations, same as we have image resolution recalculations, which will invent some parts of the image. That same thing will happen with temporal stuff. But then if you look at current video games running on your hardware, a lot of that is like multiple frames interpolated between each of the frame of the video game, up-resed at real time. So if it's not a scientific thing that has to be exactly the way it is, then software is definitely a choice. Probably not as real time as this. Again, this has an SDI output, so you can
it's amazing.
integrate this into professional environments. Yeah,
I'd like to use it like Cartier-Bresson, just on the street, like taking black and white shots of like something happening, but it's like a still shot that has
some motion, like a Harry Potter picture kind of thing. Yeah,
I think those would be really beautiful. Anyway, that's me.
Anyway, next up is, let me check, Adrian's another Kickstarter project, which I think they are backed at this point. So
they are, yeah. This is actually I've only recently become aware of this week, which is why it's my pick of the week this week. But I think the Kickstarter itself was from some time, sort of 6 months ago. But this is, I think the quickest way to describe this is what if Nintendo made a standalone Game Boy camera today? Right, and this is a camera that has, I think it's something like 0.03 megapixels, which I think worked out at, I think is 30,000 pixels. And so you can imagine it would be, something like 800 by 600 pixels or something like that. But it has lots of fun. It has not quite film simulations, but it has lots of artistic modes in it and stuff like that. There's 2 links in the show notes, one to the Kickstarter and one to a YouTube video. A fellow I've been watching for years called Matthew Stern, who investigates lots and lots of fun stuff.
These pictures look like video games from the 90s, right?
They do, and that's kind of the point. But it's also got lots of fun bits that you can do. It's got a bit of a user interface where you can change what it does with the colours and change things like dithering. I mean, when was the last time we had to think about dithering in a photography context? So lots of fun stuff.
That sounds like my Casio first digital camera.
I
the
can well
floppy
imagine
disk
it is.
that went
We
in
had one when my kids were little, which was like rubberized and you gripped with two hands. It was a
yeah,
kiddie Zoom.
Yeah, yeah.
My
I
first
can't
digital
remember.
camera.
But yeah, fun stuff.
All right. And last but not least, Jeremiah, you brought us
A camera.
a camera.
A camera which I discovered when I was away.
It's the Instax White Evo.
I thought, this is an Adrian camera if ever there was one. This camera is quite amazing in that you could take a bunch of pictures and you snap it and it doesn't automatically print it. Then you go back and you look and you can transfer pictures to it. And then you go, oh, I like that. I think I'll play with it a bit in terms of giving it a look. Then you can print it. So it's a printer and a capture mechanism. And it's huge fun. And I thought, oh, what the heck?
Oh, you bought it. Excellent.
I
Good
did.
stuff.
And when
There
I
he
arrived
is.
back home,
Hold it up. Hold it up.
I have a new toy.
Here you go.
I have
It's
a new
huge.
toy. Yes.
Looks great. That's really interesting. So they've had the small and the mini and the square versions out of these for a while, haven't they? But good to see the Instax wide come out because that's such a great format.
But you can also really adjust this. You could play with the the speeds and the it's very controllable and it's a lot of fun and it's like one of those things I couldn't resist it, and it's so much fun to come back and unbox a new toy, which is a camera. So I've taken exactly 2 shots with it so far, one of me and one of my dog.
So
maybe
I've been printing this week.
There we go.
Exactly that. I don't have one of the ones that combines the camera and the printer in one. This is just with my square printer. But do you know what? I've been thinking about buying one of these for the longest time, and the reason is because it takes all the compute out of everything. Where even your phone, you still get to have you still get to be selective. You still get to be able to do a little bit of processing and create a look, as you say. The only downside, I suppose, is that if you want to do like further things with the digital files when you get back to a computer, they are very low resolution, aren't they? But
here's something, Adrian, that this has that I've never seen before, nor have I tried it, but along with the camera, it comes with a QR code. You download a specific app. There's one app that you upload your photos from your phone to the camera and play with it and print it, etc.
Right. Okay.
The other one is for capturing and digitizing your printed photos. It says this capture mode will do this in, quote, high resolution. In other words, it's the best way of digitizing your Instax image. Now, again, I have not tried this. I have the same expression inside the screen.
Yeah, sounds great.
You can see my skeptical face on the screen, yeah.
But it may be something that you can capture, and while it may not be great, there may be things to be done with it. So, that and Nano Banana may give you something completely fantastic.
Of course, Nano Banana being a new AI image playground,
which I also have been
Google,
playing with a bit.
Mm-hmm. All right, having fun.
Interesting stuff.
It's amazing. So good to have you back. We'll be back in a week from now if everything works out as expected. You can find us online at thefuturephotography.com. All the links to the photos of the Northwest Passage and the things we talked about here in the pics are in the show notes. We'll be back soon. Until then, everyone, take care and bye-bye.
You've been listening to The Future of Photography. Join the discussion on our Discord, find the show notes and all episodes at thefutureofphotography.com, and subscribe wherever you listen to audio.